Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Pace, and I'm honored to have Hound Dog Anthony Hogeback on the show. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you on the show. I just realized your fight nickname is Hound Dog, and you have what looks like a beautiful dog in the background
Yeah,
in real life.
yeah, that's my best buddy. His name's Duke. I just adopted him probably probably a year ago. So he hangs out with me, does everything with me. He's a real smart dog.
Oh, wow. Well, that is fantastic. So technically, this isn't me interviewing Anthony Hound Dog anymore. This is me interviewing Duke and his sidekick. So that's perfect. Always love having pets on the show. I think years ago, a guy who's going to be fighting to retain the belt, the current 247 fighting championship, featherweight champion of the world, Ethan the Wolverine Goss, actually had an indoor pet raccoon at some point, and I'm pretty sure she came on the show, but not everyone's going to have a pet raccoon bring on the show. Okay, so it was just announced a couple of days ago that you're going to be fighting. You're 3-1, a very advanced amateur record. You're going to be fighting a guy who's also 3-1, a very advanced amateur record for Bronlenberg 16, which is 2-4 fighting championship, April 15th. Let's jump into that a little bit. It was basically matched last week. How long did you know you were going to take this opportunity? And is it something you kind of jumped on last minute, sort of how this matchup come to be? I think it's going to be a very high level, advanced amateur rule set. A lot to talk about today.
Yeah, well, since I fought in November, I was trying to find a fight. Probably like sometime around when the calendar turned over, and 247 was like trying their hardest to try and find me an opponent, but I had like 6 different people turn me down at some point in time, whether it was like the contracts were about to be sent out or whether they asked them if they were interested, and with just a bunch of no's, or I don't know what was going on, but I was probably within a few hours of taking a title fight in Michigan, and then my coach texted me and said, "Hey, 247 offered Jake Zack. Do you want to take it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would. I would absolutely rather take that fight. It's a harder fight. It's a bigger test. It's closer. I have to drive to Michigan, and honestly, uh, a title's enticing, but the level of opponent that they offer me wasn't like I wouldn't necessarily say like proud of that, but I would have just been like, I don't know. I don't really think that's like a title fight. So I think this fight's a better fight all around, and I'm just more excited to take this.
Well, that's some real maturity to kind of pick the quality of opponent, and of course, location matters. You fought for 247 before. You live and train in Pittsburgh at Stout Pittsburgh, which had an incredible year, as you're probably well aware. 247 had the first ever annual 247 award show, and your two head coaches won Coaches of the Year. Hopefully, they bring that up every day. I hope Mike walks in to Jim every day. He's like, I'm the coach of the year. He probably doesn't, but and also what?
He does sometimes.
Yes, yes. Well, I had Mike on the show years ago because he was fighting professionally and also a coach. And this probably doesn't happen to you because you're experienced fighter. But he has been known to turn his back during a fight on his stool if a fighter isn't listening to his instructions. Hopefully that never happens to you, but that is
No.
known Mike Wilkins coaching.
Yeah, I'm Mike's a great coach. I've only had about a year with him. Because right around this time last year is when I went to Stout for the first time. So I've only had about a year with him, but he's been in there at a high level, and that's like an invaluable asset to have, because there's a lot of coaches that don't have that. So he kind of like he really understands like what's going on. And then on the flip side of that, my head coach Rob McCraw at Bowerhouse is like he's been around the game for so long. He's knowledgeable. He has multiple high level fighters, and I have full trust in him all the time. So whatever he's telling me, I I always take that and I trust it because he's seen me from the ground up. So um, April 15th, I'm going to have Mike and Rob in my corner, and I couldn't be happier about that. That's like the most comfortable I could be.
Now, yeah, that is really great to have two coaches you really trust. You've been training with both. What's the gym that Rob? What's his name again? Rob who? And what's the gym he's associated with?
That's Rob McCraw. He's the head MMA coach at Bowerhouse MMA, which is
Oh,
my primary gym in Maryland. That's like still where I call home. I that's where I started. I take that loyalty thing very seriously, and they spend a lot of time in me, and away from their families at the gym every night. So I don't take that lightly, and I love that dude with like a dad figure, so or like a father figure. So I'm always going to be with him as long as he allows me to be. And then on the flip side of that, here I have a great gym here with Mike Wilkins and just a bunch of high level guys here.
yeah, I mean that's absolutely fantastic. What brought you into the area? Was it like a job change? Is that what made you leave Maryland and pop up to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so my girlfriend who I met in college, we both went to St. Vincent College. She lives um, in the Elizabeth area. That's where her family's from. So she got a really good job up here right after she graduated, and like I didn't have like a really set like career job. I was just kind of like really focused on fighting. So I was just like, yeah, I'll go. It made more sense for me to go here rather than like try to drag her down to Maryland when I didn't really have anything like super set in stone. So that's what brought me up here. But I do miss home, but I am glad I found Stout because it's helped me a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the perfect. I think it's very nice that you prioritize, the value of your relationship with your girlfriend. And fortunately for you, you found an incredible gym. I also think you mentioned that your coach Rob is like your dad figure, and as long as he's willing to come and coach you, you have that. That's your main gym, your kind of your home gym, home
Yeah.
based gym is Bowerhouse. So I think that's a great. You have two strengths there, and We see this at high levels where once you have a good relationship and a connection with a coach, it's kind of great that you can have both in your corner for April 15th. You mentioned that you believe that your opponent, one of the reasons why you jumped on this fight as opposed to taking a title fight in Michigan, and we were actually talking about you coming on the show to potentially talk about that Michigan title fight because we didn't know what was going to happen. So that would have been cool as well. But you mentioned knowing of your opponent and wanting the kind of the harder fight. So, what makes your opponent the harder fight? What makes you excited to fight him?
Um, well, when looking at the opponent in Michigan, he hasn't fought in like a long time. Um, it's like really weird in Michigan where like they had a bunch of unsanctioned fights like back probably 5 6 years ago.
Yeah,
So you really don't know what his record is, but his like official record on Tapology is like 0-2, but they're offering him a title fight. But my only reason for taking that was because I just literally couldn't find a fight, and I didn't
you
want
didn't
to
fight.
sit. I didn't want to sit for months because I know I take this very seriously and I want this to be a career at some point, and I don't want to waste any time not fighting. So, um, and with that, I wanted to take a harder fight, test myself. I want to go pro if this all goes well, and I just thought it was like a really good, just see where I'm at. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, it sounds like you have a very mature head on your shoulders. And when you want to do this as a career, you need to kind of make those business decisions, which make sense. Not necessarily taking a fight out of the fun of a title, as exciting that would be, but really seeing if you're ready. From what you just said, is it accurate to say that to you, beating Jake Zack April 15th means that you're turning pro? Is that kind of the level that you're ready to say, or is that kind of a once the fight's over, you'll kind of work through with your coaches about that?
yeah, it's like a yes and no.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's like there's some pro guys that like aren't pros, and it's like you can go take a pro fight and then you're a pro. So um that's kind of my mindset towards that. But like in regards to this fight, I don't want to look past him. He's hard. He's scrappy. He's good, and I don't want to like be like, oh, if I do this or I do that, then I'm gonna go pro. It's just like I just want to focus on that, and then I'll reassess it afterwards. But my like long term plan is to, yes, like if I if everything goes the way that I hope it does, and I think it will, that's probably my next move.
Sure. Well, I think that's a very reasonable and well thought out answer because you're kind of testing yourself. You want to see how you match up, and like to your point, if things go the way you and your coaches believe, because you're obviously a very high level amateur fighter, then obviously the outcome will kind of dictate how well you see yourself progressing. So I think it's incredible. You know this, I'm sure, but just it's really exciting that 247 has this fight on the card, which is a title fight caliber type fight, which I'm sure you're aware of. And then it also has at your same weight class a bantamweight title fight between I think 4-2, and yeah, I think Francisco is 4-2, and Chris Ianieri is 6-0, and that's another matchup between two guys who are at that pro level caliber. So it's going to be really exciting, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about it, and the commentators are going to talk about it. To have four kind of pro level caliber advanced amateurs on the same card at the same weight really just shows how deep 135 really is, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I think like 35 throughout the amateurs and the pros, like just look at the top 15 in the UFC. That's like there's not another division that's matching up like that. Where like literally probably anyone in the top 15 in the UFC could go take the title at any night. So but that kind of just trickles down all the way through like the pro ranks and into the amateurs, because like all those amateurs are going to be in that mix in the next 5-6 years. So yeah, the amateurs for 135 are deep, especially in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, we just mentioned that this is going to be an advanced amateur rule set, which in Pennsylvania, there's 3 levels of rule sets: novice for amateur, advanced amateur, which this fight is at, and then pro. Advanced amateur are 3-minute rounds, so 9 minutes of fighting with a bigger rule set on the ground for close fist striking, but still no knees to the head, kicks to the head, or elbows to the head. How do you think the advanced amateur rule set benefits you?
My last fight was advanced amateur in Delaware, and had head kicks, had everything but just knees and head, or no knees to the head and no elbows to the head. So I prepared for it, and actually before that, I was supposed to fight in Virginia that has full pro rules.
Yeah, they do.
But my opponent pulled out like the day before weigh-in, so I didn't get to fight that. But I prepared for 2 advanced amateur fights or pro fights, so or pro rule set fights. So yeah, I don't think the rule set is like going to be a shock to me at all, because I've already fought that rule set. So I'm just excited that I just have more tools to use, you know.
Sure. And to your point, you're already training at the pro rule set anyhow. And that's what I always tell people. If you're in MMA, particularly in Pennsylvania where they have those graduated rule sets, and you're novice, you need to be training at least the advanced amateur rules, like, one level above, so that you're getting more experience with your tools. For you, do you want to make a prediction on what's going to happen in the fight, or do you just kind of want to tell people why they should be excited to watch you and Jake Zack, 2 high-level bantamweights, throw down April 15th?
Yeah, I never been one to make predictions. I think they're kind of silly, honestly, because if you're making a prediction, it's probably something you're trying to force.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see what's presented to me. React. Once I'm making reads, then I'll put it on them. But no, I'm not a big prediction guy. But you should be excited because there's just 2 high level guys that like to fight. So that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a good fight, probably.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Anytime, and obviously the UFC can be a little different because they try to sell tickets through beefs and a whole bunch of other stuff. Conor McGregor is still fighting, not to offend anyone for Conor McGregor, but because he's the name recognition and he can talk. And obviously he had incredible skill, incredible talent. But in the last couple of years, he hasn't really been that relevant other than kind of the talking and his legacy, which is still great. First time ever, 2-time simultaneous champ. But I think one of the advantages of 247, one of the advantages, particularly for April 15th, is every fight is well matched and is going to be exciting. You're 2 very high level amateur guys. There's a lot of high level amateur guys. The pro guys are super exciting. I mean, it's just every fight, even the debut type fights, are well matched to put on good fights. So it's really
I was,
quite exciting.
I was like, I was like basically on my hands and knees trying to beg Hunter to find someone to get me on this card because I wanted to be a part of like this big, you know, it's like you said, like I think the best phrase used is just well matched. Like every fight should be competitive, and the atmosphere at the Meadows is insane. So I wanted to be on the card like by any means necessary. So yeah, I was like in Hunter's ear probably like every other day to be like, hey, what's going on? Did we find something? You know? So
Well, I'm glad that worked out. I know you've got the front desk sensei fighting on the card with you, Zack Snyder. Do you have anybody else matched from Stout?
let me think. James,
That's right.
uh, Zach, Miguel. I think they're trying to find Lucas something, but I'm not sure if it's official.
That's right. Yeah, Lucas Siebert's been on the show. I know it's
Yeah,
not official. I'll be interested to talk behind the scenes to Jim Mooney tonight. Uh,
yeah. And then
so
my buddy from Bowerhouse, Cody, is fighting Lipari, or I don't know how to say his last name, but Cody Matthews is fighting.
Oh, that's Matt. That's yeah. Okay, perfect. If you could off air, if you could get me in touch with him, I've messaged him on Facebook, but I don't think he checks his Facebook messengers. So
Yeah.
shoot me his cell phone number privately, and I'll get that set up because I've reached out to both of them because that's a huge pro fight.
Cody
Victor,
monster. Cody's a monster. He's the
that's
talking to my buddy Luke Staley the other day. He's 2-1 pro from Bowerhouse. Shout out to Luke. But I was talking to him on the phone a couple nights ago, and he was like, dude, Cody's like the best 2-2 guy probably in the country. I was like, yeah, dude, like if you go back and watch his last knockout at Rocket Combat Sport in August, it was like the most vicious shit I've ever seen. He like just threw his head kick as hard as he could, and this kid just ate it. So
absolutely. I mean, I think that's an incredible matchup. Victor Lipari is the local guy that people are super excited to have, but obviously Matt's an incredible opponent. You just mentioned that he's a great 2-2 pro. Justin, the General Patton, has been on the show a bunch. He's now 3-2, but that was true about him going into his last fight. He was a really great 2-2 pro fighter, but sometimes you got to keep fighting to kind of get the win. So that's going to be an incredible pro matchup. Just man, is that super exciting. Were you kind of connected to getting Cody Matthews that matchup because that's kind of your home gym? And have you been kind of working behind the scenes to get Bowerhouse guys matched?
no, I think what happened was I talked to Rob probably like 2 times a week. Sometimes it's like every day I talk to him on the phone, but he knew that 247 was trying to match me, and then he usually likes to try and get like a couple guys on the same card. So he was just throwing everyone's name probably to them. How it worked out, but I just know that they actually got Cody on there first, and then like kind of trickled down effect, like got me on it. So I think by just trying to match me, they were like, all right, well, let's try to see if they can find Cody something, or
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things you mentioned, Hunter, the GM for 247. I mentioned the most handsome, most talented matchmaker in the game, Jim Mooney. But yeah, those guys are constantly working connections and having teams. Pittsburgh is an incredible location for some high level gyms. You're a part of one of them, and there's many others.
it's
But it's
crazy
also
things like just today I was sparring with Noah Kiska, and then like the next round I'm like sparring with Justin Patton, and the next round I'm sparring with Elijah. The next round I'm sparring with my buddy Zach Jerminski, who's 1-0, about to probably be 2-0 in a couple weeks. Just like every round in that place is just like you're getting better.
and that is what I think makes the Pittsburgh MMA scene so incredible the last couple of years and the last many years is because you mentioned the Mad Factory, Stout, the Academy. There's a lot of gyms, but everybody cross trains and makes each other better. So it's really winning for Pittsburgh in that area, as opposed to just being gym specific. I I'm kind of bummed I haven't had you on the show before, but this is incredible for your debut time on the show to already be a high level amateur. I try to catch fighters on their come up. So I'm pumped to have you on the show. Can't wait to see what you versus another really high level amateur. The whole card is stacked, and I can't wait to follow your career going forward from here.
Thank you. And yeah, I just want to say shout out to Jake for taking the fight, because if he hadn't taken the fight, I probably wouldn't be on it. So respect to him and his team, and I appreciate him, and let's put on a show.
Well, that's a great point to end it. April 15th is going to be incredible. Thanks so much, Hound Dog, for coming on the show. And I will see you live in action. Brawl in the Berg 16 for 247 Fighting Championships, April 15th. Thanks so much.
I will see you there. Thank you very much.
You got it.